Welcome Steve to the stage.
Thank you. I'll make it brief. I'm Steve. I'm an alcoholic. How's everybody? All right? Yeah, all right. Good. I was sitting there thinking today, and if some of you feel like this is a time warp, it's not. I was here a couple of weeks ago and did this, but I did the 10-minute talk. And now I was sitting there thinking today, man, I got to talk for like 30 minutes or whatever. So if it doesn't go 30 minutes, you'll know why. Anyway, my drinking career started a long time ago, a whole long time ago. I'm 62 years old, just turned. I quit drinking when I was 50, and I have 6 years sober. So you do the math, I started at 6. And it was daily drinking by 8, smoking cigarettes at 7. It was a very unusual life I was leading. And I also got really good at lying. I was very, very good at lying because I had to cover up a lot of stuff, And that led me to a lot of bad places, places that I don't need to discuss here tonight, but just really horrible things. And I was a horrible person. Inside, I was still the same guy. I was a nice guy, some would say. But outside, I was just a mess. And it stayed that way really until, I guess, when I turned 50. That was 6 years ago. And I had finally gotten to the point in life, like when I was a kid, it was like, how do I say it? Well, I was bullied at school. My parents were not very nice people. I was adopted, and they treated me like I was adopted. So I got a lot of abuse at home, physical, a lot of physical, and my dad was an angry young little guy. And he'd like to take out his aggressions on me. And it was weird, because now looking back on it, and after 30 plus years of therapy, I understand that he was under my mom's thumb, And so in order for him to feel like he was a man, he'd take it out on me. And he never drank a day in his life, not once. He never had anything. But he was on medication for certain ailments all his life. And he died of cirrhosis of the liver, which was really bizarre because, like I said, the guy never drank. But that's what killed him. And I used to lay there at night, and I really would do this. I would pray that they would die, that they would die in a horrible car crash or something. And it took a lot of years, but they finally did die. And I thought that life was going to get a lot better then. And then I wouldn't have to be hiding anything anymore, and all that kind of stuff. And just wasn't that way. I was so used to doing it that I just kept doing it, And I wasn't an honest guy. I would shyst anybody I could. My jobs, I had all sorts of weird jobs, man. I mean, I went in the Navy, and after I got out of the Navy, I was working. Actually, I was in like the film industry for a while. Again, a different type of industry, not the mainstream film industry. And I did that for a couple of years. Throughout the 80s and into the 90s, I did stand-up comedy in California. And the 90s to the 2000s, I was on a radio station. I was a disc jockey. I was doing all of these things so I could run away from myself because I didn't like who I was or what I had become. And it was based all on my alcohol use. I wasn't really that. I did a lot of drugs, but I did them years ago when I was a kid, and high school and such. I didn't have a major drug problem, but what I did have was a major drinking problem. And to me, it was like, if we're going to the store, then let's pick up 6 bottles of booze instead of 2, because 2 we'll run out of. 3, we might be all right, but 6, we'll definitely have some for the morning. And it was like that every time. And people used to say, I would hear them talk, and they'd say, Steve's a nice guy if he just wasn't drunk all the time, if he just stays sober a little bit. And so one night I was in a band, and we were playing a bar And my daughter brought me to the bar, and I started drinking real heavy, and she said, you know, Dad, you better cool it, because you're gonna blow it, and I'm leaving, and I don't want to have to come back and pick you up. And I said, no worries, don't worry. To this day, she still has the voicemail, because she still has the same phone service. She has the voicemail of me at 3 o'clock in the morning calling her for a ride home. And I listened to that, and literally what I heard was, that's all I heard. And she knew it was me, and she came and got me. And my wife at the time made me sleep on the couch downstairs. And I woke up the next morning, and she was standing over me with a glass of water, and she was pouring it on my face, and that's what woke me up. And she said, you got two choices. You either stop drinking or you get the fuck out. And I said, I'll get the fuck out, you know. So I started packing my things. Then I realized just how stupid that was with 3 kids at home and everything else. And I said, okay, all right, I'll stop. And I went a year without drinking. And that was in 2004. In 2000, I got gastric bypass surgery. I used to weigh 460 pounds. And at that time, I was drinking a lot. And my body was okay with it, you know, because I was so big, it didn't really matter. And I could drink, you know, and I used to take pride in the fact that I could drink an entire bottle of Jack Daniels during a performance and not worry about it. Well, when I got the surgery, my doctor told me, listen, if you're going to continue to drink, you need to drink moderately. And I didn't even know what that meant. And I said, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, you have to understand that 1 shot for you with your surgery is like 5 shots for a normal person. So use that as your math. And I thought, okay, and didn't do a damn thing about it and just kept drinking. And so my blackouts started happening profusely. And there were days that would go by that I didn't remember anything at all, and I'd end up in another town. And it was really weird, and that happened a couple of times. So, as I said, I went sober for a year. During that year, we got divorced. And I moved in with another woman immediately. And she was a flaming alcoholic, and her entire family were alcoholics, all her kids, everybody. And I was sober, and I was trying to be part of, so I would drink O'Doul's. I thought that that would be okay. And I distinctly remember the night. It had been about 2 weeks I'd been living there, and I'd been drinking the O'Doul's. And her kid was going to the store to get liquor and beer and whatever, and I said, pick me up a pint of Jack Daniels, will you? And he says, you don't drink. And I said, I know, but I just want a couple. And that's where it began, the final curtain for me. And I never really got off of it. And she, this girl I was with, thought it was really cool that now she had a drinking buddy. You know, she had somebody that she could hang out with and play music with, and everything was great. But I didn't know when the party ended. You know, I didn't want the party to end. And so I would drink just constantly, and she would stop, and she ended up backing away from it. And we only lasted 3 years. And then I went underground because I had all these people that I owed money to, the government and everything else. And so I lived on a pot plantation out in the middle of nowhere, literally in the middle of nowhere, off the grid, no power. Everything was solar with generator backup, and it was crazy. And I was living with these old people, and they were like 70 at the time, and this was probably 10, 15 years ago. And so they asked me, please don't drink at our house. You know, you said you're sober, so please don't drink at our house. And I said, no worries, I won't do that. So I got thrown out about 2 months later for drinking in their house. And I ended up homeless for about a year. Met another woman, thought that was going to be my saving grace. And told her, no, I don't drink, and lied through my teeth and drank every single day. And so finally, on Christmas Eve, 2012, she'd had enough. And so she threw me out. She put all my stuff in my car, and I had a 94 Suburban at the time. So all my clothes are in there, my music stuff, everything is in this car. And I took off, go see my buddy down at the river and have some beers and some booze. So the next day, now it's Christmas. And I said, well, where's the whiskey? He said, we're out of whiskey. And I said, well, that's not going to work. I got to go get some. And he said, dude, you know, we got tons of beer. And I said, yeah, well, beer's for pussies. I'm going to go get the whiskey. And I almost made it. And I must have blacked out, I suppose. And I drove off the edge of the road. And this was in the middle of the mountains up in California, Northern California. And the hill that I chose to go off of was about like that. And trees and bushes and all this shit. All I remember is that. That's all I remember. Until I felt rain on my face. And I opened my eyes and I looked down. I couldn't see my car. It had gone down 350 feet. I got thrown out at 200 feet. I was strapped in with a seatbelt. The windows were up. It was raining. And how I came out of that car, I don't know. And, oh, well, I do know. God saved me that day. And I ended up with 8 broken ribs and a collapsed lung and all that. But essentially, I walked away from this thing. And so, of course, that to me meant, all right, that's it. I'm never drinking again. God has given me another chance and all this and that. No program, no nothing. I was just going to white knuckle it and say, fuck it, that's it, it's over. And then 3 weeks after that, I started drinking again. And this time I had a little apartment. And I sat in that little apartment with me and a half gallon every day. Till finally, May 3rd of 2013, I'd had enough. And I don't know to this day what prompted me to decide that that was enough, but it was. And on the 2nd of May, I drank incredible amounts of liquor just so that I could go out with a bang. And the next day, I was in rehab, a VA rehab in Palo Alto, California. And I was there for I was in the nut ward for 3 weeks, and then I went to a rehab for 28 days. And I haven't had a drink since then. And life for me today is phenomenally better than it was. I can never, ever be more grateful than I am for this program. Not only this program, but for the people that are in my life. Because a lot of people that were in my life are no longer in my life, whether they be dead or they just chose to turn their backs on me. And the ones that stayed, the ones that really hung in there with me and stuff, and the people that really I do care about, they care about me too. And I'm telling you, man, this program, I was a complete loser, wreck. I was a horrible human being. And I didn't like myself. I didn't, let alone love yourself. I didn't like myself. I couldn't look in the mirror. And nowadays, I came here in November of last year, and within 2 weeks, I was working at the rehab that I went through 2.5 years ago, a different addiction. And now I work there, and I work with guys. I work with people that are trying to make their lives better. And in some cases save their lives. And it's such a rewarding feeling. It's something that, again, I said I'm 62. I never thought in a million years I'd be working at this age. I'm retired from my career, and I have Social Security. And yet, I look forward to the alarm going off every day so I can go into work and I can be with these guys, because these guys mean everything to me. And I live in a sober house. I manage the sober house. And just tonight, a guy came to me, and one of his dear friends passed away today from a heroin overdose. And he chose to come to me to talk to me about it. 6 years ago, nobody even wanted to be in the same room with me, let alone come and seek me out and ask for advice. So for me, man, honestly, I sat there today and I thought, what am I going to talk about? I don't want to talk about a drunk log, and I hope that I didn't bore you with that. Because my main message tonight is for those of you who only have a matter of days, maybe a few months, whatever, it gets better. I can't say that enough. And all the days that I sat in those chairs and I listened to people stand up here and say it gets better, it's like, I just don't see it. I can't feel it. I can tell you from my heart that it gets better. Provided that, the steps to me are just, and you've heard this before a million times, I'm sure, are a blueprint for a good life. That's all they are, And you can apply those to anything, any addiction, anything. It's just that's how you're supposed to live. If you want to live a decent, God-fearing life, there it is right there. And for me, it took a while for me to understand that. But when I went to rehab, I didn't go there to quit drinking. I'd already done that. I went there to learn how to live sober. And that's what they taught me. And that's what this program teaches us all, is how to live a sober, decent, right-thinking life. And you know what, guys? We can't ask for better than that, man. So my wish for all of you, my heartfelt prayer for all of you, is that if in all that crap I just said, and if anything, anywhere, anytime, sticks in your mind and tells you that there is a better way. There's a guy that stood up there the other night. This guy's an old man, and yet he fucking cool, and he went through shit, and here he is. I'm here to tell you that we can make it, man. You can do it. And it takes work. It's hard. It's real hard. It's a simple program. It just ain't easy. But you know what? It's worth it in the end. And I'm living proof of that, man. And God bless all of you. Thank you.